Hello! I'm here today to tell a fairy tale that I have found on either the internet or in a book or heard from someone else. Now, I enjoy fairy tales, so I've decided to start telling them on the internet. Um, now, I'm going to be telling fairy tales from different countries and different cultures. So I have to previously apologize for a few things. Firstly, if I mispronounce names, I've tried really hard to find the pronunciation and get it correct. But again, certain languages aren't my first language, which is English. So I might get that wrong, and I do apologize. Also, there are going to be some details that I do leave out just because I don't necessarily find them important to the story, and also timing. So I don't know too much what else to say about this story. It's an Italian fairy tale known as Giovannuzza the Fox. I will leave a link in the description as to where I found it, so that way if you're interested you can check it out a little bit more. If you've heard the story already, you've probably never heard it like I tell it. Maybe. I don't know. Okay, so I'm just gonna start telling the story now. There once was a man who lived in a cabin all by himself. Outside his cabin, there grew a magic pear tree that grew pears all year round. So he didn't really have to do much, and he could kind of just take the fruit, and he mostly just lived as a fruit farmer, really. Except for the fact that he didn't have to do any of the work, really. Now, one year in the winter, he would always often go to sell his pears at market, so he could get some food that wasn't pears. So one year the roads were particularly bad, and he couldn't get out to town, and so he was stuck inside for a little while. Now, it's winter, of course, and people are going to, need to feed their families, even though he doesn't have one, but, there are going to be certainly other people who are like, someone has food, and I need food. So one morning he wakes up, he looks out at the pear tree, and all the fruit is gone. So it's been stolen, and he has no fruit to pick that day. Well, look, he's managed, so he's like, damn, I gotta do something about this, because this is not good. And they're probably gonna come back, and I don't want that to happen, because I want food and I want to live. So he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna stay up for a couple nights, and, they're probably gonna come back, and then I'm gonna go out, and I'm gonna threaten them. And make them stop stealing my pears. So, he tries to stay up, but he fails miserably for, 3 nights. And each day he gets continuously more frustrated. But on the 4th night, he manages to stay up, and somewhere after midnight-ish, he sees this shadow, sneaking across his yard. And so he stealthily goes up to behind the shadow and is like, hey, stop stealing my fruit! And he threatens the shadow, and it's he's really scary, even though he's really not that scary, and he's really not that threatening. But he threatens the shadow, and it's pretty, the person's pretty convinced. Except for the fact that when the shadow turns around, it turns out to be a talking fox named Giovannuzza. So Giovannuzza she's intimidated, and she doesn't want to die, and be turned into a fur coat. So she's like, listen, man, okay, I bet you're probably pretty mad about the whole, me taking pears. How about I make it up to you? Just give me some pears. Here are some pears for yourself. I'll go over to the king, and it's gonna be awesome. It's even gonna be better. You're gonna be in a better situation. And so the young man is like, do I trust you? You're a talking fox. Aren't foxes supposed to be, really clever and tricky? But he ends up trusting her, and she takes some pears to the king. And she presents the pears and says, my master, Count Piero, would like to give you these pears. It's the winter, and certainly fruit isn't easy to come by, so I guess this is probably in the north. So here, have these pears. Please enjoy. And so the king's like, yo, pears, I love these things. Thank you. It's winter. This is so nice a gift. But I feel like I have to give your master something. Is there anything that he might want? And so Giovannuzza says, no. You don't understand. My master is really rich, and he has everything that he could possibly desire. And then so she's like pushing his wealth and pushing everything that he has. And then she goes, and then she comes back a couple times, and each time she pushes Count Piero's wealth. And the king's like, seriously, there must be something that I can give your master. And eventually Giovannuzza says, well, you know, my master would like your daughter's hand in marriage. And the king's like, I don't know if that's something that I can really promise you. Because he still doesn't really know of this guy. He's never heard of him. Even though he's been accepting pears, now it comes time to give his daughter, and he's kind of hesitant. And so Giovannuzza says, well, okay, you know, come over to his palace tomorrow, and we can sort things out. You can meet him for yourself. He's a nice guy, but, you know, you have to see it to believe it, I bet. So she now has 24 hours to make this bum pretty much look like a count. So she's running off around town, and she manages to get together some horses, an outfit, but she still needs a palace. And she is running out of time. So she thinks, ooh, I can go to the ogre! Because there's an ogre that lives a little bit outside of town. He relatively keeps to himself, but she knows of him. And so she's like, ooh, I'm gonna go trick him, because he's really stupid. So she runs out of the town, and then goes into to the ogre's palace. Now she bangs on the door and says, "Ogre, the king's coming to kill you. You really need to hide." And so the ogre rips open the door and is like, "What? There's a king coming to kill me! Ah, I gotta hide." And so he's like, geez, where do I hide? You're probably smarter than me. And so the Giovannuzza's like looking for a place. Okay, now how can I trick him into trapping him, and he is not able to take her to his palace or fight against anyone taking his palace. And so she's running around, and she's like, ooh, the oven. So she's like, hey, ogre, go hide in the oven. Because if there's one thing that Grimm's Fairy Tales has taught us about ovens and villains, it's that they never mix. Or maybe they do. Just not in the good way. So the ogre goes, manages to fit himself in the oven. And he's like, wait, no, the king's gonna see me if you leave the door open. You have to shut me in. As I said, Hansel and Gretel. He gets roasted alive. But now the palace is Count Piero's. Woohoo! She still committed murder. Anyway, so the next day, Count Piero and Giovannuzza are standing overlooking the king coming near to the palace, and Giovannuzza says, hey, I know this is, I just have one favor to ask of you, if that's alright. So, I want to live with you for the rest of my life, and I also want to be buried like a human. Yes, she's a fox, but she still wants to be buried like a human. She wants to be buried in a coffin and given a proper burial. And so Count Piero is like, yeah, sure, I can do that. Kind of nonchalantly and probably not even listening, really. And so the king is, like, pretty convinced, and he ends up saying, hey, buddy, here, have my daughter. And so he and Count Piero and the daughter get married. Woohoo! But that's not the end of the story. Now, years later, Giovannuzza decides to test Count Piero's loyalty. So, one morning she plays dead. And when everyone comes down to find her, they're bewailing her and saying, oh, she was such a lovely person. It's a shame that she's gone now. And somehow she manages to convince them. I don't know how, but I guess she stops breathing really I guess she can really hold her breath. But she, so Count Piero comes down and says, "Oh, come on, guys, she's just a fox. Give her to me and I'll throw it in the woods and be done with her." Yeah, Giovannuzza's not dead, so she hears this and she's not happy. So she wakes up, she yells at him, and depending on the ending, she either screams and runs out, or she listens to Count Piero's cries of forgiveness, and eventually comes back, and it's a happy ending. But I don't know. I'm gonna go with the ending that she's never seen again. I don't know. It's interesting that there might be some ambiguity about surrounding villain and victim here. I mean, Piero didn't keep his word, but also Giovannuzza murdered, stole, and I don't know if it's technically a false identity, but it's misrepresentation. So I mean, she wasn't without sin. But I don't know. I'm not the judge here. So let me know what you thought of the story. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know what you thought the meaning of it might be. Now, if you have any suggestions for other fairy tales that you or legends or myths that you've heard of and you'd mind sharing with me, please do. If you made it through this video, thank you so much. I will see you next week. Bye!